Hi there, and welcome. I wanted to take the time to give you an overview over this introduction session to the concept of Ikigai and the Ikigai app. So, as you can see here, this session can be used both as a 30 minutes up to, or as a 60-minute session. So you can vary depending on how much space you have in your classroom, in your organization. We suggest using the session in the context of team buildings, helping people to connect to what is truly important to them. Use it in orientation programs, for example, at the end of a bachelor or master or high school program. Use it to train soft skills, for example, as part of a human resources training. Or use it for leadership programs. One last application is using it in the context of student multiplicator programs. So students teaching students. And so for this purpose and for all of these purposes, this document is made as simple as possible. And if you are encountering any troubles with going through this document, there's something complicated, please let me know. So if you want to understand the concept of Ikigai better and how it's related to mental health thriving and purpose, you can check out this link. And there's kind of like a really nice general overview of Ikigai and the Ikigai app over here with this 8-minute video. The goal for this session is that your participants really understand the Ikigai process. They understand how it can help them to process their life, find purpose. They fill in the Ikigai diagram and they are like, this process is really interesting. There's already something coming up, but I want to know more. At this point, you can introduce the Ikigai app to them, which gives them all the tools, the exercises, really the best of our last 5 years of research. And so that they kind of get the feeling of like, I really want to get home and use the app, dig deeper, share it with my friends and family. So there's a short session overview here. And as you can see, there's both a 30-minute session here and a 60-minute session. The difference between those two is that in the 60-minute session, there's going to be an icebreaker and kind of an opening, a closing, and an introduction to kind of mental health and a collective mental health assessment, which sets a bit the frame for the Ikigai inquiry, but is not necessary if you're doing it in the middle of a program, for example. The short version is an introduction to Ikigai. Participants fill in the Ikigai diagram. There's a demo of the Ikigai app, and then lastly, there's a space where the Ikigai poster is hung up and printouts are distributed. So, what do you need for this session? So firstly, here is an agenda for the session, which I will take you through. So when you click on this, it brings you to our building block facilitation system. So this is just a PDF that you can print out, but that should make it fairly easy to facilitate the session throughout. So again, there's the goal of the session in a description, the materials that you need. Optimally, I suggest people to kind of create more like of an open circle, which often facilitates the conversation and also gives people a feeling that, okay, this is different from my normal everyday classroom activities. This is something important and I can participate in it. Throughout the session, if you want to use one of the collective assessments, which I suggest, you can use the platform Mentimeter in combination with a big screen. So Mentimeter is a website for assessments that gives direct live results. And so I added here my username and my password. And the name of the presentation is Thriving Ikigai. I invite you to duplicate it for your classroom. You can also use one of the existing ones, but then you would need to clean it out. So my suggestion is to duplicate it. And then in the classroom itself, you just click on Present. And then on the bottom left, there's a menu where you can bring up a QR code, which makes it very easy for your students to join. One trick that I discovered is that to know if all the students are actually already on the poll, ask students to stand up as soon as they scanned it, so that you know who has scanned it successfully, who hasn't. If you have any questions at any point, you can always write me a message or send me an email. So here I added a few different icebreakers for different sizes that you can try out. There's an introduction to the meaning crisis, something that you can read more in the on the projects page itself. There's also context here. And so generally the way that these are built up is that there is a title and a timing. And then on the opposite page, when you print it out, I suggest you to print it out and to clip it together so that you have kind of your own printout. And so there's a side with instructions, and then there's a side with just general comments that you can read through or not. Same, introducing Ikigai, and then some more details. Filling in the Ikigai diagrams, and again, some more details to nourish you. We generally suggest that before you facilitate the session, that you actually familiarize yourself with the Ikigai app. You can do this through the video, but I also suggest to maybe go through some exercises, kind of get a feeling for the app, see how beneficial it is. At this moment, there's a version both in English and in French. So whatever fits your situation, feel free to use that. And then lastly, we have created an Ikigai poster and an Ikigai printout. The poster is to hang onto the wall and to kind of create a general space in your classroom organization where the Ikigai is displayed. And belowhand, I suggest to put some of the printouts, because there's often people that want to give this to family members, and so they can just take a printout and give it to family members or friends. And also because the app normally works together with a partner, it is nice to have an actual physical printout to note down some of your results. The printout is not necessary for the app, but it just makes it nicer. And at the end, you can kind of put it as a poster on your wall, and it reminds you of this reflection time. So lastly here is just a one-word closing, which is just a way of closing the session, hearing from the participants how they enjoyed the session or not, and what they are taking from it. And lastly, a space for personal notes. So let me just show you some of the other materials. So there's the Ikigai poster, both in English and in French. So let's take a look at this. So I invite you to print this out on A3 or A2. A2 is really nice poster format that one can put on the wall. And then there's also an Ikigai printout, which has several functions. So it's you can use it in the classroom, so people can fill in their first ideas. I would suggest to tell them to leave some more space, but to kind of just give their first ideas. And I would suggest to print it out in A3 for them. There's a space down here for the Ikigai, for the end. And there's a link on the right, on the bottom right, to the Ikigai app, which basically allows them to go deeper into this process and use the app to go beyond their first ideas. So this is an introduction to the Ikigai session. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me via my phone number or my email, which I'll add on the document. Wishing you good luck with the session. Take care.